People involved with the search for UFOs say there is much more to their search than watching for lights in the sky. Government documents indicate that UFO researchers have been routinely spied upon by intelligence agencies, and there appears to be an ongoing campaign of disinformation about the topic. Tonight, in part 3 of UFOs, The Best Evidence, George Knapp looks at some of the intrigue associated with UFOs and at some of the leads concerning alleged flying saucer activity in Nevada.
This long-range FAA radar station atop Angel Peak can pick out aircraft for 500 miles. For the most part, it detects commercial craft, big airliners traveling at certain speeds. On occasion, military craft will jam the station's sensors as part of training exercises. And once in a great while, the big radar will pick up signals from something strange, something that apparently just hovers over the Groom Mountain area.
It mostly stays put. It doesn't move in range or azimuth very much and uses a stationary code that we normally use for a test function.
The sightings sometimes last for up to 15 minutes. Barnes says it could be an advanced helicopter, but he doubts it. So what is it that floats above the most top-secret location in the world? Finding out isn't easy. The Groom Mountain location, also known as Area 51, is shut off from the world by a combination of desolation, motion detectors, laser sensors, and a highly mobile force of large, ominous security personnel, men who are, according to informed sources, culled from the ranks of veteran Green Berets, Navy SEALs, and police agencies, and are supposedly trained by America's elite Delta Force. So what's the big secret at Area 51? It's likely there are more than one, but the biggest may be the one Bob Lazar says he worked on. Lazar says he worked a few miles south of Groom at a place called S4, and that this is where our government is trying to master at least 9 flying discs of alien origin.
The hangars are all connected together, and there are large bay doors between each one. And there were 9 total that I saw, each one being different.
Lazar is the first person to publicly proclaim first-hand knowledge of the S4 saucers, but stories about alien technology being tested in Nevada have been whispered for years. The government generally dismisses such reports outright, much as U.S. Senator Harry Reid did in this letter to a constituent. And if a denial isn't enough, there's always laughter, such as occurred during dedication ceremonies for EG&G's new facility at Nellis.
What is it that they do over there? Well, I've tried to tell them that that's where Nick keeps the space people from Groom Lake. And during the week, he lets them out and they do root canals for us in our hospital clinic.
Jim Goodall, for one, doesn't think the story is all that funny. Goodall is one of the best-known aviation writers and photographers in the world and has written what may be the definitive book on stealth technology. He did it by cajoling information out of a network of aerospace and military sources. Goodall was skeptical about UFOs in the beginning, but his attitude changed during his stalking of the stealth fighter, an engineer employed at Lockheed Aircraft's so-called Skunk Works operation, which tests many of its advanced machines at Area 51, told Goodall that the UFO stories are true.
He looked at me and says, absolutely, positively, without a doubt, they exist. I mean, it sort of startled me, and I said, what do you mean? He says, well, we have stuff in the Nevada desert that would make George Lucas envious.
Goodall pursued it further. A civilian who worked on various projects at Groom Lake over a 10-year period had much the same story.
He sort of hemmed and hawed, and he sort of stepped back and said, you know, we have stuff out there that anything, in essence, anything you've seen on Star Trek, this is really before Star Wars came out, so anything you've seen Captain Kirk do or what he has, so we far exceed his capability.
But does this mean the technology is extraterrestrial? Goodall put that question to a third source, a master sergeant who says he did 3 tours of duty at Groom.
So the United States government and the military has things that are out there, you can't describe them as airplanes, that are literally out of this world. They are, and he emphasizes out of this world. He says, and they're alien to anything that you've ever seen. And he says, and I try to press him for some more, and he says, I can't comment. He says, I've gone much farther than I should have already.
In addition to Goodall's research, there is at least circumstantial confirmation for some parts of Bob Lazar's account. For one thing, there really is a place called S4 on the Nellis Range. That, according to Nellis Public Affairs Captain Jeff Milkey. Milky told us the military operates certain equipment at S4, but he wouldn't say exactly where it's located or what equipment is tested there. Lazar says he and other personnel would muster at EG&G and would then be flown to Groom Lake aboard planes much like these, photographed outside EG&G's Nellis facility. Once at Groom Lake, Lazar says he would ride a bus down a long dirt road to S4, adjacent to Papoose Lake. The latest maps of that area show a long dirt road leading from Groom to Papoose. What the map doesn't show is the type of activity underway at Papoose. If there really are flying saucers there, it's conceivable that some of the technology may have found its way into Earth contraptions. For instance, the Stealth.
There are more than a few similarities between stealth technology and some characteristics ascribed to UFOs, which is why some people suspect that both types of vehicles have been nurtured and tested in the same corner of the Nevada desert.
There is no question that stealth has been put through its paces in and around the Nellis Range in Area 51. If there's any person outside the government who might also know about the testing of UFOs or a connection to stealth, it's this man, Ben Rich, the brains behind such aviation marvels as the U-2, the SR-71 Blackbird, and the Stealth Fighter. Rich is the longtime boss of the Skunk Works, Lockheed's Advanced Systems Division. When asked about a possible link between stealth and aliens, he didn't bat an eye.
Some people say it's alien technology.
No, it isn't. It's just good American ingenuity. It took lots of good people working together, and then the cooperation of the Air Force. We couldn't have done it with the cooperation of the Air Force. They kept the minimum amount of people knowledgeable about it, and we did it in the black.
But this denial doesn't tell the whole story when it comes to Ben Rich and UFOs. Rich has confided to close associates that he is a, quote, believer. This letter from Rich to a longtime friend confirms this belief. A follow-up letter from the friend asked for a clarification whether Rich might be talking about man-made or extraterrestrial UFOs. Rich responded saying he believes in both, but added there are kooks and charlatans associated with each category. Jim Goodall, who has known Ben Rich for 15 years, admits that he too has seen the letters and thinks Rich is sending us all a pretty strong hint.
If anyone outside of the select group of people within the military, Department of Defense, who would know about alien spacecraft, the hardware portion of it, if anyone in the world would know about it, it would be that gentleman.
Was President Jimmy Carter also privy to information about UFOs on the Nellis Range? That's what this alleged presidential briefing document suggests. The so-called Aquarius document was obtained in 1983 by journalist Bill Moore. Moore says government agents allowed him to photograph Aquarius in a hotel room, but the photos aren't that clear, and neither are photostated copies. A retyped version of the alleged presidential paper purports that the U.S. military has been in contact with aliens since 1964 and that an effort to test fly alien aircraft has been underway in a misspelled Nevada since 1972 under the codename Project Snowbird. Bill Moore says even he isn't convinced that Snowbird is real, and even if it is, it doesn't mean saucers are flying at Groom or Papoose lakes.
In order to divert the attention away from what's really going on up there, it might serve the purposes of those responsible for diverting attention to spread stories about UFOs and alien technology in that area.
If someone really did try to divert attention away from Groom Lake by spreading UFO stories, they made a big mistake. Just ask any of the city folk who routinely drive up to sit outside the base and watch. More importantly, Moore's suggestion that someone official might be spreading false information about UFOs must seem supremely ironic in certain circles. That's because Moore is considered by some to be the reigning expert on disinformation. At a 1989 UFO convention, Moore admitted he participated in a scheme to feed bogus information to a fellow UFO researcher. With Moore's acquiescence, government agents convinced a researcher that space aliens had built a secret underground base at Dulce, New Mexico. Moore says he has a good reason for allowing a fellow researcher to be bamboozled.
My involvement was only with the motive of learning how the process worked, who was involved with it, and ultimately, if I could, what was behind it. Why is the government doing this kind of thing? I never did quite learn why, but I did learn who, and I learned a great deal about how.
Many people in the UFO field aren't buying it. They say Moore was taken in by his own government sources. UFO magazine called Moore's actions malevolent. Moore counters he did ufology a favor by proving once and for all the government really is spreading disinformation.
In essence, what I was doing was rubbing the noses of the UFO community in what's going on all around them all the time and saying, hey fellas, wake up. You're being had, you're being used, and you better be aware of it because it's gotten to the point where it's beginning to influence what people think about this subject. Well, a lot of them didn't like that. A lot of them didn't like it in spades.
What does this say about the validity of the Snowbird document? Lee Graham would certainly like to know. Graham is a California aerospace worker who forwarded Snowbird to the U.S. government to find out if it's real. What he got instead was an ongoing investigation of his own UFO activities. One of the agents sent in to check Graham out is a Mike Majewicz, who, according to documents filed with the Justice Department, told Graham that Snowbird was not only real, but had been declassified. If it's declassified, Graham says, why is he still under investigation? The Pentagon won't tell him, nor would it tell us, and we were not allowed to talk to Mike Majewicz. But is Snowbird real? Has it been declassified? Dale Hardig, a media liaison for the Pentagon, told us he didn't know, and he had no idea where to go to find out. If all of this seems complicated and confusing, then welcome to the world of government disinformation. And there's a lot more where this came from.
Well, sometimes when you deceive the public, you're protecting the public. And I certainly would protect the public in deception operations if it was for their own good.
Is the so-called Falcon another source of disinformation, or is he for real? More on that tomorrow. George Knapp, Eyewitness News 8.